Social distancing, quarantine, and mask wearing and flu vaccine are not coincidental, but due to historical pandemics like Spanish flu, spreading globally between 1980s and 1990s, affecting one-third of the global population. Spanish flu is caused by H1N1 type of influenza virus, which is similar to bird flu of today. It starts in the US. The first recorded flu occurred in March 4th, the 1980s in Kansas. The method of controlling are isolation, quarantine, mask wearing to stop the epidemiological transition of the disease. The negative economic impact of the Spanish flu outweighed any temporary positive ones. In industry around the world, they were short of customers until the depression of the 1920s led to great economic ruin. However, some certain industries and workers made a fortune. Socially, the negative social impact of the Spanish flu was evident throughout the period where it lasted, until the post-war period where the population declined due to the Spanish flu. Spanish flu occurred during 1980s to 1990s, and it's one of the world's epidemics in the modern history. In estimate, around the world there are about 50 million to 100 million deaths, and due to the ineffective healthcare and containing the disease, it caused disruptions in the society. For every 1 death per thousand, it caused a decrease of 1.4% in trust. In Norway, Estom hospitals, because of the Spanish flu, the patient with mental disorders increased by average of 7.2%. For some of the survivors of the disease, they report disturbance in sleeping, mental distractions, depressions, in worst cases leading to suicide. The massive deaths because Spanish flu had caused anxieties and helplessness in the society. In New York, 1980s, 31,000 children has lost their parent. The feeling of frustrations and grief will disturb them even several years after the pandemic. Socially, the biggest positive impact was long-term, with the awareness of how to cope with pandemics. Modern researchers have argued that people learn to deal with the pandemics and healthcare policies has allowed for a better understanding of the epidemiological model of disease and how it can be prevented. With a more understanding of and a greater awareness, the disease can be curbed and we can better understand why pandemics occurred, how to prevent them.
One key feature was the economic impact. Economic decline caused supply of manufacturing workers due to the flu, which led to a positive factor of allowing wage increase. For many deaths, the supply of manufacturing labor is reduced. Hence, the number of deaths from the flu has increased, and wage growth in the manufacturing industry has also increased. According to the statistic in 1980, workers' wages were temporarily increased due to the labor reduced, and the economic happened recession will have an impact on economic activity that occur decades after the pandemic. In figure, the economic impact was huge. For example, original cost extends at $200 billion for US by Health Department, on an average of 10,000 lose per day for Little Rock. In modern day term, $133,000 as of 2006 when converted. Although there was increase in revenues and profits for medical and supplies industries, and in manufacturing wage growth for 5 years from 1940 to 1990, the positive can't outweigh negative impact economically.
Ways. Due to the 1918 flu, the virus spread rapidly, which caused many deaths, and many corpses were laid on the street, and more than 500 corpses awaiting each week. According to the ECONOFACT, the environment was unprotected. Therefore, the number of people who died from flu had increased, and data showed that bad air and water quality could exacerbate the spread and situation of 1918 flu.
Spanish flu caused by the H1N1 flu virus. It attacks the human respiratory system and is highly contagious. The method of transmission is through droplets. Coughing, sneezing, or talking from an infected person can create respiratory droplets which are transmitted into air. It will infect the people when inhaled by anyone nearby. Scientists in the 1980s had not figured out the flu virus, hence there is no vaccine, prevention, and antibiotics for the Spanish flu. Some of the non-pharmaceutical interventions that can prevent us from the virus include isolation, social distancing, maintaining good personal hygiene, wearing masks, and usage of disinfectants. In the US, the public facilities like school were shut down. This caused a major impact on society because citizens' unemployment rate will increase, leading to individuals isolating home without money and lack of basic survival needs. And public health objectives are sometimes only established after significant loss of life and negative social impacts of the pandemics has made a significant difference into people, rather than before those has been fully established. Still, the government of St. Louis tried to stop the virus by launching a campaign against coughing, splitting, sneezing in public, and denying public gathering. This did result slow down the growth of new cases. It decreased the transmission rate by 30 to 50%. Non-pharmaceutical interventions are effective in leading to positive social outcomes and goals, while allowing continued growth of the economics and limit the negative social impact of disease.
During the Spanish flu, business and the people around the world were closed to prevent spread, and the economic was severely affected. Almost all companies have reduced orders, and the protective measures on a global scale have caused huge economic loss due to the endemical transmission model of the diseases. It is difficult to control the infection. Particles in the air cause a dangerous approach in the same area. The income of mask supplier has directly doubled. However, it is difficult to formulate the correct prescription without the correct cause, and a spread portioning cause many deaths. However, the demand for aspirins has greatly increased during the pandemic, and the pharmaceutical industry continues to flourish. But overall, the flu is harmful, and many companies were forced to close because too many employees are sick.
During the 1918 Spanish flu, there was no vaccine that could completely kill the virus. But according to NCBI, there were some ways like wearing a mask, keep social distancing. These things can help to minimize the risk of contacting the virus. There was open-air hospital in Boston, USA in that time, which provide fresh air and sunlight. That proves that environment in here helped a lot of people to improve their situation of 1918 Spanish flu.
Of cure for Spanish flu, it leads to vaccine research and development for antigens in the same strain. During the flu season, the people who get the vaccine will have a safer and better state of mind in public. This is because the vaccine will reduce the chances for getting flu by 70%. For certain group of people, also lower the risk of hospitalizations, allowing for a quicker recovery time. This vaccine is not fully safe. In some cases, people with it might have a negative reaction to it. Symptoms will appear right after the shot or hours after. Some common negative impact would be difficulty in breathing, wheezing, rapid heartbeat, hives, and swelling around your eyes and nose, mouth. Addition to this, in rare cases, you will also get the Guillain-Barré syndrome after the vaccine injection. It's a severe autoimmune disorder where, in periphery nervous system, your immune system starts to attack healthy nerve cells. This syndrome will weaken your muscles, causing numbness. Finally, it can paralyze your body.
Not know the cause, so there was no effective treatment at the beginning and caused irreparable economic losses. After the pandemic, humans have not forgotten the disaster, so they still invest a lot of money to study this virus. The Spanish flu pandemic has caused governments around the world spreading their economics and invest more funds in scientific and technology healthcare system.
During the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, medical experts did not know the cause, and in that time there was no effective treatment initially, causing a huge damage to the environment. The street became very dirty, and the dead bodies on the street and in the water seriously affecting the living condition in that time. According to the National World War II Museum, after the pandemic, people discovered a way to help the 1918 flu situation by transfusing the survivor's blood into a patient's body. Somehow, the infected could produce some antibodies.
The epidemiological transition model shows how pandemics can affect social development and how scientific discoveries can further progress. The vaccine development has thus been significant in allowing societies to develop, regardless of whether disease is eradicated, at its limit, minimalist, and remove the negative potential social implications caused by pandemics, which can be extremely dire.
The concept of a pandemic actually includes quarantine to limit spread. After the Spanish flu, people have re-examined and questioned the medical foundation, as well as potential concerns about the mutation of the virus, the re-pandemic, and the second wave of epidemics. The Spanish flu caused countless companies to close, and the global economy was severely damaged. Beginning in the 1920s, alternative medicine has made great progress and spread all over the world. This will reduce the impact of the next flu on the economic.
Air and water sources to deteriorate, and the global living environment has been greatly affected. When the pandemic happened again, people had ideas about what to do, such as COVID-19. By referring the 1918 Spanish flu, people knew that they needed to wear a mask and maintain social distance in order to improve the situations.
Spanish flu's impact was only less visible after Depression and World War I, by which people had understood how devastating a pandemic can be socially, economically, and environmentally. This led them to be prepared for the future pandemics, so that what happened for the Spanish flu could hopefully be prevented. In a new age of vaccinations for flu would be emphasized on an annually basis, so that the exception of very serious flu viruses, most of them will not have the same devastating deaths come any longer.